men's toilet now. You're going to have the time of your life.
I was going through my old UMD collection and I realized that I was missing one. Kiss of the Dragon. This piqued my curiosity, and so I pulled out my old Blu-ray copy and I decided to give it a watch, to see if it was still any good. Now, Kiss of the Dragon is an action thriller starring Jet Li, Tchéky Karyo, and Bridget Fonda, released in 2001. So if you don't know what it's about a Chinese government operative who goes to France to track down a drug trafficker, and he gets framed for the murder of said trafficker by a corrupt French cop. So he teams up with a hooker who was witness to the murder, who will help him on the condition that he rescue her daughter from the corrupt cop. I remember enjoying this movie when I was younger. I mean, Jet Li was on the rise, it had martial arts, and I remember having a slight crush on Bridget Fonda at the time. So it had a few things going on for it. But what is the real drawcard to this? Well, it's produced and written by Luc Besson, but it wasn't directed by him, no. That distinction goes to a man called Chris Nahum, who specifically doesn't have a lot to his name. But still, the main draw for this film is its star Jet Li. Jet Li had been kicking butt for decades at this point, but he was still relatively fresh to the wider Western audiences. His big break coming from his role in Lethal Weapon 4, which showcases one of the most intense fights ever. So what about Kiss of the Dragon? Well, I have to say the action is disappointing. Now, let me explain. There are a few fight scenes in the film, but as many times as I've seen this film, I don't really remember them. There's certainly a few memorable moments here and there, but none of those rewind the tape moments. Ironically, I had to rewatch these scenes a number of times to really hone in on what was bothering me. Where it fails specifically is on the framing and the editing of these scenes. Let's make a few things clear to start. Jet Li knows how to fight, and fight on camera. Ko Yin, the fight choreographer, knows how to craft a fight as well. He also went to the same school as Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung, so they aren't the problem. But let's take a look at the fight between Jet and Colin Prince. There are so many cuts, sometimes you don't even see the attack being thrown, missed, or even connecting. But they spend a lot of time on a single unedited shot to show Colin taking large splinters out of his knuckles. In this sequence here, they just cut frames out of a single continuous take and crank the footage up to make everything appear faster. The editing is all over the shop. Most of the editing in the rest of the film is fine, it just really falls apart during the action scenes. On a side note, I also noticed that the grunts from most of the fights must have come from the same library as GoldenEye in 64. But aside from the editing, much of the fight scenes are framed poorly. What do I mean by that? Well, notice that almost every single kick is out of frame. And it's possible that there were angles that were good, but what they ended up using is either in way too close or the framing is only of the upper torso. This certainly works in some areas, but it just makes most of the fighting confusing and forgettable. This did come out of the era of quick cut fight editing, but there's no excuse when you hire people who know how to fight. Compare this to a movie like Unleashed, released a few years after in 2005. When you let the fights play out with less cuts, the intensity of the fight is present and really showcases why he's called Jet. It's interesting because aside from the fights, I actually do love the directing of Kiss of the Dragon. The story's simple, it's enjoyable, Tchéky brings a thoroughly entertaining performance as a villain. So as a film, I'm split. I love watching it, but I don't enjoy the fights. 3 stars. It's a decent effort for a film that was conceptualized in a 2-hour meeting and then written in 3 weeks. If you want to watch it, there are an abundance of digital purchase options available, and DVD, Blu-ray releases as well. That's going to be it for this one, hoping to do more breakdown of martial arts films as we go along, so stay tuned for that. Thank you.